In today's digital world, data is king. Businesses and organizations collect vast amounts of it. This data is stored in databases. But what happens when this valuable data falls into the wrong hands? This is where SQL injection comes in. SQL injection, or SQLI, is a type of cyber attack. Hackers exploit vulnerabilities in applications. They inject malicious code into SQL queries. These queries are instructions sent to the database. Imagine being able to speak directly to the heart of a system, bypassing all security measures. That's the power of SQLI. The consequences can be devastating. Data breaches, financial losses, and reputational damage are all possibilities. Understanding SQLI is crucial in today's interconnected world. To understand the danger, we must first understand the enemy. SQLI is a sophisticated attack that exploits a simple concept: trust. Web applications often trust user input without question. This trust is their Achilles heel. Think of a simple login form. You enter your username and password. The application sends this information to the database in the form of a SQL query. But what if the attacker enters malicious code instead of a username? This is where the injection happens. The malicious code is inserted into the query. The database, unable to differentiate between legitimate and malicious instructions, executes the entire query. Suddenly, the attacker has access. The attacker can then read, modify, or even delete data. SQLI thrives on vulnerabilities. These are weaknesses in an application that allow malicious code to slip through. Identifying these entry points is the first step for attackers. One common vulnerability is inadequate input validation. Web forms are often designed to accept specific types of data, but what happens when the application doesn't check what the user enters? Imagine a search bar. It's designed to accept keywords, but an attacker could enter something like, "This seemingly random string of characters is actually a SQL command." It tells the database to delete the entire user table. If the application doesn't validate the input, this command could be executed, leading to data loss. Other vulnerable points include URL parameters, cookies, and HTTP headers. Attackers actively scan applications for these weaknesses. Once a vulnerability is found, the real attack begins. After finding a vulnerability, the attacker's next step is to craft the malicious code. This requires an understanding of SQL syntax and the structure of the target database. The goal is to create a query that bypasses security measures and achieves the attacker's objective. The malicious code is often disguised as legitimate input. It's designed to blend in and avoid detection. For example, an attacker might target a login form with the following input. This query exploits a logical flaw. The operator makes the condition always true. This means the attacker can log in without knowing the actual username or password. They can retrieve sensitive data, modify existing data, delete data, or execute commands on the server. The attacker's skill and the complexity of the target system determine the sophistication of the attack. The possibilities for malicious code are vast and depend on the specific vulnerability and the attacker's goals. The impact of a successful SQLI attack can be catastrophic. The consequences depend on the sensitivity of the data compromised, the attacker's motives, and the response of the affected organization. Data breaches. SQLI is a leading cause of data breaches. Hackers gain access to confidential information, such as customer details, financial records, and intellectual property. This data can be sold on the black market, used for identity theft, or held for ransom. Financial losses. Companies can suffer significant financial losses due to stolen funds, legal fees, regulatory fines, and the cost of remediation. Operational disruption. SQLI can disrupt critical business operations, leading to downtime, lost productivity, and reputational damage. Hackers can deface websites, disable online services, or even shut down entire systems. Reputational damage. A successful attack can severely damage an organization's reputation. Customers may lose trust in the company's ability to protect their data. The consequences of SQLI can be long-lasting and difficult to recover from. Protecting against SQLI requires a multi-layered approach. One of the most effective methods is using parameterized queries, also known as prepared statements. This technique changes the way applications interact with databases. Instead of embedding user input directly into SQL queries, the application uses placeholders. These placeholders act as variables. Think of it like this. Imagine sending a letter with blanks for the recipient's name and address. You fill out a separate form with this information. The post office then inserts the correct details into the letter before delivery. Parameterized queries work similarly. The application sends the SQL query with placeholders to the database. The database prepares the query, waiting for the values to be filled in. The application then sends the user input separately. This separation of code and data is crucial. While parameterized queries provide a strong first line of defense, they are not foolproof. That's why input validation and sanitization are crucial. Input validation ensures user input meets specific criteria before processing. Think of it as a bouncer checking IDs and refusing entry to anyone who doesn't meet the requirements. For example, an email field should only accept text that conforms to the standard email format. Sanitization modifies user input to remove harmful characters. This ensures that even if malicious code slips through, it won't execute. Access denied, the principle of least privilege. Imagine giving someone the keys to your house, your car, and your bank account just because they need to borrow a book. Sounds absurd, right? Yet, many applications grant excessive permissions to database users, increasing the potential damage from an SQLI attack. This is where the principle of least privilege comes in. This security principle dictates that users and processes should only have the minimum level of access necessary to perform their duties. In the context of SQLI, this means creating separate database accounts for different applications. Each application should have its own account with limited privileges. Granting only necessary permissions. Don't give applications more access than they absolutely need. Using stored procedures. These pre-compiled SQL queries can help limit the impact of an attack by restricting the commands that can be executed. By implementing the principle of least privilege, organizations can minimize the potential damage from an SQLI attack. Disarming the intruder. Escaping special characters. SQLI attacks often exploit the way databases interpret special characters. These characters, such as quotes, hyphens, and semicolons, have specific meanings in SQL syntax. By manipulating these characters, attackers can alter the logic of queries and execute malicious commands. Escaping special characters is a crucial step in preventing SQLI. This involves adding a backslash before each special character that is part of user input. The backslash tells the database to treat the following character literally rather than as part of the SQL syntax. For example, the following input, "It's a beautiful day," would be escaped as "It's a beautiful day." When the database encounters the escaped character, it recognizes that it's not part of the SQL command and treats it as regular text. This prevents attackers from using special characters to manipulate queries. Fort Knox for database security measures. Securing the database itself is just as crucial as securing the applications that interact with it. Databases come equipped with various security features that can help mitigate the risk of SQLI and other attacks. Strong passwords and authentication. Use strong, unique passwords for all database accounts, including administrator accounts. Implement multi-factor authentication to further secure access. Regular patching and updates. Database vendors regularly release security patches and updates to address vulnerabilities. Keep your database software up to date to ensure you have the latest protections. Database activity monitoring. Implement monitoring tools to track database activity and identify suspicious behavior. This can help detect attacks in progress and provide valuable information for forensic analysis. Data encryption. Encrypt sensitive data at rest and in transit. The Watchman tools and techniques for SOC teams. SOCs defend organizations against cyber attacks, including SQLI. SOC teams need the right tools to detect, prevent, and respond to threats. Regularly scan for vulnerabilities using automated tools. These tools identify weaknesses and provide remediation suggestions. CM systems analyze security logs to detect suspicious activity. IDPS detect and block malicious traffic, including SQL attempts. Develop an incident response plan for SQL attacks. These tools enhance SOC teams' ability to handle SQL attacks.